From Chicago studios, this is a Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. First, the headlines. Over 700 Jewish settlers storm Al-Aqsa as Muslims restricted. Delhi police arrests 14 Muslims for resisting mosque attack. Mother of Pakistan's orphans Bilquis Edhi dies. 5 Muslim worshippers injured in drive-by shooting in Canada. K-pop singer performs pilgrimage to Islam's holiest cities. Startup betting on crypto appeal in Islamic world raises funds. Our top story tonight. On Friday, over 700 Jewish settlers stormed the Al-Aqsa mosque compound under heavy protection from Israeli police, Haaretz newspaper reports. Israeli police also restricted the entry of Muslim worshippers for the dawn prayers at Islam's third holiest site. Jews called the site the Temple Mount, claiming 2 Jewish temples stood there in ancient times. On Friday, the U.S. voiced deep concern for violence at the compound in occupied East Jerusalem and called for all sides to lower tensions. On Sunday, the Palestinian Ram Party suspended its participation in the coalition government of Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett over the violence. A visiting Imam of Al-Aqsa Mosque was a witness to the Israeli raids. Imam Azzam Abu Rayash told Justice for All on Saturday that his brother sitting next to him was injured in the Friday morning attack. You can watch an interview with Imam Rayash later in the program, so keep watching Muslim News. Police in the Indian capital New Delhi have arrested 14 Muslims, according to The Wire. Muslims were resisting an RSS militia attack on their mosque on Saturday. A procession led by the Hindu militia Bajrang Dal attacked the mosque in the Delhi suburb of Jahangirpuri. According to area resident Salman Khan, they tried to wave the saffron flag there and were dancing to loud music in front of the mosque. Instead of arresting the militia attackers, police took the Muslims into custody. In a similar April 10th attack in the state of Madhya Pradesh, a number of people were injured in an attack on a mosque. When Muslims resisted, the government bulldozed 16 homes and 29 shops without a trial. On Saturday, leaders from 13 Indian opposition parties wrote a statement urging Prime Minister Narendra Modi to condemn the wave of religious attacks. They also expressed concern over the recent outburst of communal violence witnessed across several states. On Wednesday, ABN AMRO, the third largest Dutch bank, issued an apology for its predecessor's role in the Atlantic slave trade during the 18th and 19th centuries. The bank worked with the International Institute of Social History to investigate its 2 predecessors, Hope and Company and Mies and Zunen. Researchers found Hope and Company's profits were inextricably linked to the slave trade. Between a quarter and 1/3 of the company's annual revenues in the latter half of the 18th century were from slavery. As well, the investigation revealed Mies and Zunen issued maritime insurances, and more than half were related to shipments of slaves. ABN AMRO CEO Robert Swak said the bank had a proud history going back more than 300 years, but acknowledged its darker side. Known for her compassion and selfless work, Bilquis Bano Edhi died Friday evening at Karachi, Pakistan's Aga Khan Hospital. The 74-year-old was a mother to thousands of orphans across Pakistan and a recipient of the Mother Teresa Memorial Award for Social Justice. She was also awarded the Hilal-e-Imtiaz, Pakistan's recognition for the highest degree of service to the state. Edhi was the widow of the late Abdul Sattar Edhi, who founded the world's largest volunteer ambulance network, as well as the Edhi Foundation in 1951. Through her work, she was a caretaker to an estimated 42,000 babies abandoned mainly due to poverty. Edhi was suffering from multiple ailments, including a heart condition and lung infection, according to her grandson Ahmed Edhi. Footage showing French police assaulting 2 Muslim women wearing hijab has triggered anger on social media. In the April 14th video, French police used disproportionate force against 2 Muslim women in headscarves in the city of Asnières-sur-Seine. Police can be seen beating one of the women and trying to push the other to the ground. As police punched one of the women in the head, another woman recording the video can be heard saying, "Hey, I'm recording, let her go." Later, the woman who documented the incident got out of her car and went to the police to say she had recorded it. The video sparked outrage on social media, with many users calling French police Islamophobic. France bans hijab in schools and public properties, and its home minister has claimed that they have shut down 92 mosques. There are 6 million Muslims in France, constituting about 5% of the population. Iraq's foreign ministry summoned Sweden's charge d'affaires over an incident involving the burning of a copy of the Quran by far-right extremists last week. On Thursday, Rasmus Paludan, the Danish leader of the Stramkurs party, burned a copy of the holy book in the city of Linköping, according to media reports. Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson supported the far-right group, making comments deemed provocative by some. Sweden has seen 4 days of rioting as anti-Muslim and pro-Muslim groups attack each other. Sweden prohibits hate speech by law, but continues to protect the burning of the Quran and hate speech against Muslims as freedom of expression. Footage of police's harsh treatment of a 13-year-old Turkish boy in the German city of Duisburg has sparked social media outrage. The boy was allegedly tearing up an election poster. In the April 12th footage, two police officers can be seen handcuffing Emirhan Altintas while one of the officers was pressing the boy's chest with his knee. Despite opposition by onlookers who said he's still a little kid, let him go, officers handcuffed Altintas behind his back. Fatih Zingal, attorney for the Altintas family, shared the footage on Twitter. Zingal said Emirhan could neither breathe nor say anything when the police officer pressed him to the ground. Around 3 million people with Turkish Muslim roots live in Germany and often face discrimination. Dr. Ur Sahin and his wife, Dr. Özlem Tureçe, who founded BioNTech and came up with the first COVID vaccine marketed by Pfizer, are both Turkish-German as well. 5 Muslim men were injured when someone opened fire on the group, which had just finished midnight prayers in the suburb of Scarborough in Canada, police said. The men range in age from 28 to 35 years old. Acting Staff Superintendent David Ridgick said the men who were observing nightly prayers for Ramadan gathered around 1 a.m. in a parking lot to discuss where to eat. Ridgick said the men were struck by the bullets from perhaps a vehicle traveling on Markham Road. All 5 men suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries. News about a South Korean pop singer performing pilgrimage in Mecca and more news stories after the break. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. Brothers and sisters, we all watch the Allahu Akbar lady from India. She's amazing, isn't she? She's neither compromising her hijab nor her education. She's standing tall. We must stand with her. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect her. But it is not just hijab, brothers and sisters. Indian Muslims are facing genocide.
Genocide that we face in India is not a new phenomenon. India has had several genocides.
They are attacked every day. Even the Indian government admits there has been more than 1,800 organized attacks on Muslims, but they call it riot. 660 people are hanged to death in India, lynched in broad daylight, sometimes just because they were accused of eating beef. Yes, accusation of eating beef can kill a human being in India. We cannot remain silent, can we? Alhamdulillah, OIC has spoken, that is good, but why in the world United Nations is silent? The UN has a responsibility to protect. It has a duty to prevent genocide. Sisters and brothers, we must stand with Indian Muslims and other minorities. We are free, they are not. We are not attacked, they are under attack day and night. Let's do our job. I have signed this UN petition. I ask you to sign it now. Thank you so much.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
South Korean pop singer Dawood Kim posted an Instagram picture of himself standing in front of the Kaaba at the Grand Mosque in Mecca. Kim shared pictures of his pilgrimage to the two grand mosques in Mecca and Medina as part of his visit to the kingdom during Ramadan. He posted a picture of himself in ihram, the garment worn by Muslim men to perform Umrah, the minor pilgrimage. Dawood also posted pictures of himself in Medina at the Prophet's Mosque last week. Formerly known as J. Kim, Dawood changed his name when he converted to Islam, which he announced on his YouTube channel in 2019. Facet, a digital asset gateway, is planning a major expansion in parts of the Islamic world. The company is seeking to boost the adoption of cryptocurrencies in places where it is viewed with suspicion. Mohammed Rafi Hussein, Facet co-founder and chief executive officer, said the company has been working with prolific and well-known Islamic finance jurists and thought leaders. Its goal is to educate the masses on how Muslims can interact with this emerging asset class in a Sharia-compliant manner, he said. The company reported closing a $22 million Series A funding round led by Liberty City Ventures and Fatima Gobi Ventures. Regional family offices from the Middle East and South Asia also participated in the funding round. The money will go toward product development and market expansion, the company said. The Council on American Islamic Relations, or CARE's Florida chapter, is urging the Orange County State Attorney's Office to prosecute an attack on a Muslim man as a hate crime. An Orlando Muslim was attacked earlier this month in what the organization calls a racially motivated assault and battery. Victor Dubaskas allegedly poured beer on Ghulam Sharif and then threw his bottle toward the victim. Sharif's attorney claimed the battery was due to prejudice because his client was dressed in traditional Islamic clothing. He also said Dubaskas insulted a group of men sitting outside an Orlando business, as well as the religion of Islam. 72-year-old Dubaskas is in Orange County Jail, charged with battery and assault. On Saturday, dozens of Black Lives Matter protesters staged a rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, outraged after the video release of police killing a black man. Grand Rapids police released 4 videos of the shooting earlier this month that left 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya dead. There has been growing public outrage and conflicting accounts of the incident. The videos show an officer fatally shooting Lyoya in the back of the head during an April 4th traffic stop. One video shows Lyoya on the ground and facing away from the officer, who later pulled the trigger. There was a 2-minute struggle between the two men before the shooting. Lyoya has 2 young daughters. He fled violence in Congo with his family and came to the U.S. as a refugee. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Walking up and down the world's largest refugee camps, I met Sister Fatima. Well, I'm calling her a sister. She was just a teenage girl, my granddaughter's age. Her parents were slaughtered by the Burmese military, and she was dragged by the Burmese soldiers to their hut, and all night long she was violated. She lost consciousness. When she regained, and in the morning and soldiers were themselves away, she ran and hid in a vegetable patch. Some people saw her, gave her clothes, and took her 4-day-long walk to Bangladesh. Who will speak up for her? Who will stand up for her if not you and I? It's our responsibility. It's our duty, brothers and sisters in humanity. And that's why I like you to support Burma Task Force. I'm a volunteer for it. But Burma Task Force is standing up to stop this genocide, violation of our sisters. You and I are free. They are not. Please stand up. Work with Burma Task Force and donate today to Burma Task Force. Together, we can do it. Assalamu alaikum. To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. To learn more about the Israeli attacks on Masjid Al-Aqsa and the current situation, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Samana. Masjid Al-Aqsa, or as the world say, Al-Aqsa Mosque, continue to see raids by Israelis. And on Friday morning after Fajr, they even enter the actual sanctuary with their shoes and guns and arresting people, shooting rubber bullet. I mean, rubber bullet looks like it's a side of sweet dish or something. It is a real bullet, a little softer. It may not kill you, but sometimes it does kill you. So don't expect that to be a kinder and gentler bullet or something. But that continues. Even this morning it happened. Yesterday, Israelis prohibited Muslims from entering while they escorted 700 right-wing illegal settlers into Al-Aqsa to worship there. To discuss all of that, we have someone who is a Canadian, but also a visiting Imam of Masjid Al-Aqsa, Imam Azzam Abu Rayash. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Imam. I'm happy to be with you, and peace be unto you and to all the followers.
What is happening there at Al-Aqsa today?
Today is the second day of the Passover holiday, the Jewish holiday, where far right-wing extremists have continued to storm Al-Aqsa, facilitated by police brutality. The storming starts by heavy and mass numbers of soldiers and police officers coming into the compound with their arms and emptying the whole masjid from everyone inside of it, and also sieging whoever is inside the indoor prayer halls. After the area or the compound is secure and is manned by them and is controlled by them using their military forces, the settlers in groups of 20 to 30s, they come and they do their Jewish Talmudic rituals inside of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they do that with the protection of the police officers and the soldiers. So each group is guarded and escorted by military officers and police officers. Now, those who want to stay in Al-Aqsa and they express that are not only forced out, but they're also shot, injured, and wounded.
So when yesterday they blocked Palestinian Muslims coming into mosque, so that is something what they're doing on the daily basis then?
That is correct. This happens between 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Every single day, Muslims come and pray Fajr in mass numbers, and then they go to their workplaces, etc. Some people remain in i'tikaf. Those people are either besieged or kicked out. And they do this on a regular and daily basis, correct, between 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. These are the hours that they are trying to enforce, that these hours belong to the far right-wing extremists, for them to allow them to share the space and to do their own rituals as a stepping stone of taking over the whole masjid.
What I have read on internet, researching this conversation with you, that in 1967, when Israel occupied Masjid Al-Aqsa, the head rabbis of Israel said that it is prohibited for Jews to pray there because it is not clear where the Temple Mount, their ancient place of worship, used to be. So that seems to have changed at this moment. But isn't Al-Aqsa Mosque under the control of the Jordanian king? Why are they allowing this to happen?
That's a very good question, Imam. Like you said, this new paradigm and this new ideology of calling Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa Temple Mount and actually limiting Al-Aqsa to the Qibli prayer hall and calling the whole compound as Temple Mount. Unfortunately, this narrative just came to life very recently over the past few decades by extremist Zionists, far right-wing illegal settlers that skewed the Jewish creed and introduced this new paradigm to the Jewish faith. And unfortunately, this group was powerful enough to influence the standing governments of the state of Israel. And so it became a state-owned, a state-sponsored a program for them to storm Al-Aqsa and to want it and to create false narratives around it. In fact, under Al-Aqsa, there have been, for the past 2 decades, digging of various tunnels in search of any remnants or any archaeological evidence and scientific evidence that this would be the Temple Mount that they're referring to. Until today, they haven't found a single piece of evidence. And the tunnels underneath Al-Aqsa remain so long and dark. Just to go back to the second part of your question about Awqaf, the Jordanian Awqaf legally controls the inside of the compound. However, on the ground, the occupational forces does whatever they want. Disregards the not only the sanctity of the place, but disregards the Jordanian authority and enforces any program and anything they want. Jordanian authority is limited to employees that basically govern the day-to-day of Al-Aqsa. And even them themselves are under pressure and under duress.
We're talking with Imam Abu Rayash, who is visiting Imam of Masjid Al-Aqsa. He's coming to us from Jerusalem at this particular moment. So are Muslims otherwise allowed to go and pray, or they have to go through some process of going to Masjid Al-Aqsa?
Now, Muslims, if we're talking about Muslims in Canada and Muslims in the West, they treat us differently. And that's where it's easy for us to come and be here and be at the masjid without hurdles. And that's very important for us to stand up to this duty and reclaim our heritage as Muslims of the West. Otherwise, Muslims from the Muslim world and even the locals here undergo extreme restrictions of entering Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. They sometimes are forced to remain out. So they would have a curfew from Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. One of our, the deputy director of Awqaf, you're talking about Awqaf, the deputy director of Awqaf was forced out of his workplace for 6 months for nothing else than he is a decent man teaching people the culture and the heritage and the history of the masjid. That's it. That's the deputy director of the Jordanian Awqaf in Jerusalem, the second man. The people here, they undergo extreme restrictions, age restrictions, time restrictions. They're sometimes detained. They sometimes get violated and assaulted throughout their journey by coming here.
So you were present when 150 worshippers were injured. It is important for our audience to know that after the early morning prayers, Muslims wait in mosque, many of them, to offer prayers after sunset. It's a tradition
which continues from the Prophet's time, and many Muslims in America also practice that. So they are kicked out at that particular time, but by Israeli forces. But share with me, I heard that, I think I was reading in Washington Post, but people require a permit to enter the mosque. Are all Palestinians free to enter a mosque?
No, they are not free. People that are from the West Bank require special permits. They need to get a permit which takes months. You have people right now that live 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers from Masjid Al-Aqsa that never seen it, simply because they're young and they are not allowed, and their permit applications get denied. So no, people in Jerusalem themselves, in the city, as I mentioned, they come and populate Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. However, they also remain restricted, like in certain events. When it's heightened, they aren't allowed to enter. Like today, this morning, women, young men were not, like literally not allowed to enter. They were telling them, you go out, come back at this time, just to facilitate the comfort and ease of the storming of the right-wing settlers. People from the Muslims within what's called the State of Israel are able to maneuver around, but the same restrictions apply to them as well. So you have different categories of Muslims.
So on 100, when 150 worshippers were injured on Friday morning, you were present, and you mentioned that your brother who was praying next to you was also injured. Describe us what you saw that day on Friday morning.
Yes, and I just came right now from the hospital visiting the wounded. It's just so outrageous what I've seen today. The bullets, these are the guards of the masjid, like actual official employees of the masjid. They're not activists or anything. They are employees of the masjid. These forces should be familiar of who come and works here. This is their workplace. They got shot here in between their eyes, and they're like, which is deadly. Any of them could have died. And this a shooting in between the eyes is recurrent. It happened. I visited today a number of wounded heroes, and many of them were shot in between their eyes, and you got a bruised face and loss of vision, etc. What happened was some of the people, after conducting Fajr prayers, conducted a civil, peaceful protest, while the majority of the worshippers were minding their own business, spread out in the courtyards, reading the Quran or praying their nafil prayers in the month of Ramadan. All of a sudden, a mass number of police officers and soldiers stormed into Al-Aqsa, firing rubber steel-coated bullets randomly throughout the whole crowd, stun grenades and smoke grenades. It was terrifying. It was terrifying. It was horrific what they've done. People dispersed. Sirens everywhere. You had it. It literally turned into a war zone for 4 hours. That's what happened. The masjid became a war zone for 4 hours. And that is an utter violation of every basic human right and international law that these guys should be held responsible for. That's what I've seen.
Imam Abu Rayash is coming to us from Jerusalem right now. He's a visiting Imam of Masjid Al-Aqsa. You're a PhD and a CEO in a Canadian company. How you came about to become the visiting Imam at Masjid Al-Aqsa?
That's a very good question, mashallah. Now you take me tens of years back. I grew up, this is my homeland, first of all. Palestine is my homeland. My extended family is here and from here. My family and my parents, my father and mother, really instilled in us the love for Al-Aqsa and this deep passion for this holy site and for the Holy Land. And so as soon as from the young age, they used to take us to this Al-Aqsa, and we have long memories and great memories in this place. After completing my hifz and after obtaining the sanad, alhamdulillah, it was facilitated for me by Allah Azza wa Jal for me to join as the youngest Imam ever in 2014 at the age of 21, the Imams in Taraweeh and Qiyam prayers. And alhamdulillah, I consider this contribution back in 2014, 15, and this year in 2022, not as an individual contribution from Azzam, whose homeland is in Palestine, but I considered it that I am a representative here of Canadian Muslims and American Muslims and Muslims in the West. That Muslims in the West have a contribution in Al-Aqsa. That Muslims in the West are reclaiming their responsibility and their accountable and their ownership over this land and over this site. This site of Al-Aqsa doesn't just belong to the Palestinians or the Jordanians or the Arabs. It also belongs to us, Canadian Muslims, American Muslims, European Muslims, Muslims across the world. And so I consider this humble and modest contribution in being an Imam and a lecturer in Al-Aqsa at a visiting capacity during the month of Ramadan as a form of responsibility and a form of representation. And I hope that if this message reaches out, I call upon all my brothers and sisters, and I call upon all the different organizations to start facilitating and to start bringing groups, not just for tourism purposes, but for educational purposes. And inshallah ta'ala, we can facilitate that.
Well, thank you so much, Imam Abu Rayash, for joining us from Jerusalem, a visiting Imam from Masjid Al-Aqsa. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Pleased to be with you. Assalamu alaikum. May Allah accept your fast and Ramadan.
Ameen. Thank you. Back to you, Samana.
Thank you, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.